So, Etsy just uploaded a bunch of articles, an ultimate guide, as they call it, and this time it's the ultimate guide to Etsy policies. I know some of you like it when I take you right through these things, and I know some of you don't. So, in the next couple of days, I will actually review this properly and do a more concise report. But right now, we're going to go through what Etsy's given us, potentially add a little sark or commentary to it. But let's dive into this series of articles that Etsy have created for us. You'll probably see them on your dashboard, but if not, just search for the Ultimate Guide to Etsy Policy. They like making these ultimate guides, and this one was just created a couple of days ago. It's got a whole load of articles. And I think it really is important because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that what we're posting on Etsy can be on Etsy. We want to know why Etsy take down certain things. Now, yes, are they inconsistent with how they seem to take down things? Yes. Is their system perfect? Oh, hell no. But we might as well understand the system we've got, because then we can congratulate them for the bits they did well and ask them for the bits that need improving. So learn why policies are created, what considerations to keep in mind to avoid listing removals, and how we're working to increase transparency. And transparency is so important, because so many people are saying, oh, my stuff was taken down and I don't know why. So yeah, that's not good. So let's see what they are saying. Wow, I need to put my teeth back in, as my granny would say. Etsy policies, also referred to as our house rules, so there's the link there to get to them, exist to keep both our marketplace safe, fair, and creative. They're designed to protect both our community and Etsy itself, so we can continue to be a trusted destination for original items for real people. Whether you're opening your first shop or you're a seasoned seller. So I know what seasoned seller means, but it just sounds like we should be putting salt and pepper on our heads. Seasoned seller looking for a refresher. This ultimate guide offers the resources you need to confidently navigate Etsy's policies. Bet you it doesn't. Hopefully, it clears up more things, but yeah. Can I create an amber bracelet? No idea. Yeah, well, Etsy, we do need now. I know this would cause big problems in. This would be a logistical nightmare, but we do need the ability, at least for people who've had items shut down, to be able to say, can I sell this type of thing? And for you to stand up and say, yes, you can, or no, you can't. And I know there's a whole chunk of reasons why you don't do that. Firstly, probably if you're too clear about things, then the dodgy people will be looking for the loopholes. We all love a good loophole. So if it's too clear, then people work around it. Also, if you're sort of missing something, then you could get into trouble, basically. So it has to be a little bit fuzzy. And so you can change things over time, because as we've seen, even in the past few years, things are changing. Things like AI has come along, which is, well, it is part of the policies they've had to think about, but also the nature of what people find acceptable on a forum and things like that changes. So fair enough. We understand some policy decisions may not always feel intuitive. Ain't that the truth? That's why we're committed to supporting you with clear expectations about how we maintain and occasionally evolve our marketplace policies. Throughout 2025, we'll continue to bring you along for the process, offering tools, resources, and greater transparency to help protect your account and be part to and to help protect your account and do your part to keep Etsy safe and special. You'd think I'd never read out loud before. So this is interesting. They're saying they're going to be offering us tools. This could be something else on the dashboard. It One thing that Etsy does follow Google, copy Google quite a lot. And one thing that YouTube did a good few years ago now is when you upload a video to YouTube, they run some checks and you find out if there's anything dodgy about it. to say, a simple thing is if you just directly copied something. So I was working on a different channel of my own, and I was taking some videos from this channel and putting them on the other channels. So you're okay, you're allowed to do that. But as I uploaded them, the system was able to look and see that there was already a video identical to that, and they're like, you might want to check that. So that can be hopefully a possibility that they might think of. This is a duplicate. It could go both ways. The person creating the listing could be told, hoi pal, you're copying someone. But the person on the other end, this is very much on YouTube, that the original account gets a notice saying somebody's copywriting you. What do you want to do about this? Now, they do have their IP reporting tool thingy where you can put up some of your trademarks and things, I believe. I haven't looked into it for ages, and it does make it easier to take things down. But something a little more automated that's like, hey, Simon, somebody's copying your stuff, would be kind of interesting. But of course, as soon as that comes up, then people will know, well, we copy the stuff, but just zoom in the picture slightly and just change a couple of words. Anyway, so how we create policies at Etsy. Shall we start with that one? Yes, we shall. Behind the scenes look at how we develop and enforce our house rules. At Etsy, our long-standing house rules are the policy framework that enable us to keep our marketplace safe and special. Following these policies is a responsibility shared by our entire global community of buyers and sellers. That's why it's important for everyone to understand what is and what isn't allowed on our marketplace, along with how we ensure consistent policy enforcement, measure success, and make improvements that benefit the community as a whole. They're making the right noises, which says at least they've heard that we find it very inconsistent and unclear. We'll see. We'll see how it improves over time. I'm not the most hopeful, because we did see last year in the Q1 report, everything sounded really positive. They were understanding and wanting to improve the things for us sellers. And have we really seen big changes that were an improvement? Getting dinged and told your photo's a bit dark. But is that the best use? I don't think so. Anyway, why policies exist. Etsy is the home for creativity and self-expression. We're committed to keeping Etsy special by elevating original items from real people and providing a trusted ecosystem where creativity can thrive. That sounds lovely. That's not my experience when I search for anything on Etsy, but an important part of upholding our commitment is crafting policies that foster safe and inclusive human interactions, meet legal standards, and adapt to ever-changing societal norms and events. Yeah, I bash Etsy a lot for a good reason, but they do have a difficult job. This is people all over the world, while the world is changing at a ridiculously fast pace. I find it hard to keep up with the laws in my own country, or the laws that are relevant to me as a seller. I can only imagine what it's like for Etsy. Our policies are designed to protect all of our users and Etsy so we can continue to be a trusted marketplace. They're intended to create an experience that makes both sellers and buyers want to use the platform and promote positive outcomes for everyone. Again, good words if that's the way they're going, because I will say, as a buyer, I don't want to use Etsy. There's, to be perfectly honest, I can't very often find what I want. And as a buyer, oh boy, we hear every day people that, wanting to leave Etsy. And to be perfectly honest, if there was anywhere better, I would be gone. There's no denying it. It's not, it's all right, but it used to be good. Was it great? Well, yeah, it kind of was great. Let's be fair, it was good, and now it's not. It's the best we've got, but yeah, the whole enshittification, it came in and it was actually really good, and it improved and it improved, and my sales improved and over numbers of years, it was just getting better and better, and then the enshittification happened. They got in enough sellers that they don't need to care about us. I think, well, I know the shareholders was like the beginning of the end, but sort of masks was as well. The success of 2020, where Etsy did a great thing, has actually been what's hurt it, because not only did Etsy do a great thing and was the first to get masks out there when people were looking for masks, and Amazon and everywhere else were going, no, we're not going to sell masks. So that brought in a big influx of buyers. And also, there was a number of people working from home and actually decided they wanted to quit their job. They quite liked not having to go into the office. So they started seeking content on how to make money, basically. And that became the rise of these entrepreneur advice people who were doing the how to make a quick buck. And Etsy was the place. It's like, look at what the competitors, what in your niche, well, if you don't have a niche, look at the competitors, look at who's doing the best, copy them, churn out 2 million of those items, and you'll be rich. So that definitely hurt. Its success hurt Etsy, because there was a bunch of people who made a lot of money really quickly at that time, and now you follow them because, look, whatever this person is, they have a 7-figure shop. Doesn't matter. Okay, this is right. I'll come back. I think you know where I'm going there. Anyway, so types of policies, legal-based policies. These policies help keep Etsy and Etsy sellers compliant with applicable laws and regulations. Policy examples include intellectual property and sanctions. They have been trying to help us, but a lot of things like the GSPR, GPSR, I will say them the wrong way around, the EU things, the lucid regulations for recycling in the EU and things. It wasn't Etsy's fault. A lot of companies really struggled, and Etsy did jump in eventually and help us. But full transparency, I'm not selling to the EU yet. I'm not entirely sure. Wording of things has changed. Are my listings okay because they were listed before this time period? It's like, probably not, because I don't know. Anyway, content moderation policies. These policies to apply to anything an Etsy user is posting that another user could see. Policy examples include creative standards, prohibited items, and discrimination and hate speech. While policies often serve multiple purposes, it can be helpful to think about them in two broader categories. Legal-based policies. These policies help keep Etsy and Etsy sellers compliant with applicable laws and regulations. Since different jurisdictions may have different requirements, it's important for you as a seller to learn about and follow the laws applicable to your products, product listings, and where you offer your items, in addition to reading and following Etsy's policies. And this is difficult, there's no denying it. If you ship internationally, what laws do you need to follow for the country you're shipping to? Some items can't be shipped into some countries that are perfectly legal in others. Generally, if you're not in the US, Etsy will probably crack down on things that aren't allowed to be sold in the US a little more. So there might be things that are perfectly legal in your place that you're just not allowed to sell because Etsy's taken the step to remove them because it's a US based company, and all sorts of things. So they have links to the policies, which we should all check. Definitely, guys, if you don't know, myself and Brian actually had a wee chat about this on the eRank Live on Thursday, but just talking about intellectual property things. So many people have come to Etsy and they don't know a thing about intellectual property laws. They don't realize that they can't sell Mickey Mouse themed things. Even if you bought a roll of Mickey Mouse fabric from your local fabric store and made a dress from it, you probably can't sell it on Etsy. You probably can't sell it. You have to check on all of these things, look into the rules for the company that owns that intellectual property, Disney in this case, and look into the laws for the things that you bought, for example, the fabric, and sanctions. I have to hats off to Etsy for trying to keep up with the sanctions. I, as of today, I have no idea what the sanctions are. I am confused. They have been changing so much. Content moderation policies. These policies apply to anything an Etsy user is posting that another user could see. These include the listings in your shop, posts in the Etsy forum, direct messages exchanged between members, or details shared in your About section. We work to remove harmful and fraudulent content on the platform so our entire community can feel safe buying and selling on Etsy. Our content moderation policies also ensure the items sold on Etsy align with our brand mission by connecting buyers with unique items made, designed, handpicked, or sourced by creative sellers around the world. To support this goal, we require sellers to accurately represent their items with clear photos and descriptions, and the addition of production partners where applicable. Now, bear in mind here, they're talking about as well the private messages you send to other sellers and all this kind of what you have written in your shop. I'm sure I probably don't need to say it to most of you, but free speech, if you live in a country that has that, doesn't apply to private marketplaces, private websites, and things. And Etsy has to moderate what's being said. So, yes, even your messages can be checked. So, and if you're a seller on Etsy, your messages to other people are part of your brand. So always think of your brand. What is your brand? Are you friendly? Are you professional? Are you cute? Are you cheerful? And just talk with that brand. This is not you personally, even when you're talking on the forums and things. It is you as a business owner. So that's a different thing. It's not saying you'd lie or whatever else, but it's just people will see you and associate you with your shop name, so you have to talk with that voice. Spotlight on creativity standards. Buyers and sellers constantly ask us to reinforce what we stand for and show why Etsy and every item you sell is different and special. Our creativity standard outlines clear guidance for what belongs on Etsy and what doesn't. It's not clear. There's always going to be grey areas, but they did change their creativity standards. That was a couple of years ago. And to be fair to Etsy, as they're saying here, there are over 100 million listings on Etsy, which is crazy, created by 5.6 million sellers. Do you know what I'm reading into that? Some sellers have too many items. Yeah, it's a lot. I'm not saying that you should only have 20 items in your shop, but I I think it's Amazon where you go on with one of the accounts on Amazon until you've built up your profile a little bit. You're limited by the amount of items that you can create, and that makes sense because there are people coming on to Etsy, opening a store, and having thousands of listings in a day. That's just flooding Etsy with stuff that isn't proven to be good. And once upon a time, right back in the day, Etsy used to make, if they weren't sure at all, Etsy would make sellers prove that they made what they made. You would have to send them videos and photos and things. But they can't check now because it's 100 million, over 100 million listings. And some shops have thousands and thousands and thousands of listings. It's probably too much. That's my opinion. You may well disagree, but yeah, I don't think you can have thousands and thousands of quality listings that you care about. Hundreds, the shop that's been around a while, a few thousand potentially, but anyway, hate on me in the comments. We're invested in automated detection systems. There, yeah, we've got to live with that. 100 million, it has to be automated, and teams of people with deep expertise in identifying volitative. Is that a word? Items so Etsy can remain a destination for one of a kind and handcrafted goods. And as we've spoke about many times, if there's an automated system, well, even if there's a human system, there will be mistakes. People will be taken down, listings will be taken down that are not bad, that are not breaking any rules, that absolutely should be on Etsy for a variety of reasons. So Etsy, what we need is very quickly ways to be able to take up those listings. You take up, check up on those listings for people. Quite often sellers are just like, my item's been deactivated in Etsy chat. I'm not even hearing from them. They're not answering me back. There is a problem in that if somebody's been selling well in a popular category, if you shut off their listing even for a couple of days, their competitors get so far in front that it's really, really hard to gain that momentum back up again. You have to really work to build up that momentum. I know, boohoo and everything, but also to an extent, I feel there should be something done there to mean that sellers don't have to fear going on holiday, or if the listing's renewed after Etsy's taken it down for it not being allowed there, it should be put up without having lost a few days of momentum. I don't mean make sales or whatever, but it should be artificially boosted to where it was before in search rankings and recommendations and everything, because it's unfair that they're starting from scratch because of your issue or for a fraudulent takedown. Excuse me. Wow. Talking's not good for you. How policies are created and developed. Crafting policies that foster safe and inclusive interactions, meet legal standards, and adapt to ever-changing societal norms and events is a bit like knitting a complex pattern. No, it's nothing like knitting, but yeah, let's go with the analogy. It requires skill, care, and willingness to continually reassess and reevaluate if all threads are aligned. That's not how knitting. Okay, right. Sorry, I love a good analogy. That's not a good analogy. Our policies aim to strike a balance between encouraging creative expression and safeguarding the trust and integrity of our marketplace. To achieve this in practice, we guide our policy work by a set of consistent core values. Sorry, I'm just pausing to. I got stuck on the word consistent because it doesn't seem very consistent. I'm being unfair to Etsy to an extent because they are doing a very difficult job, but and it seems like they're trying to make it better, but it's been bad for a very long time. That being said, a vast majority of the listings that are taken down are meant to be taken down. They were wrong. They shouldn't have been up there. And even the people coming on forums and going, oh no, it's not fair, Etsy deactivated my listing and I was doing nothing wrong. They were probably doing something wrong. But not everybody, not at all. We engage with consultants who are experts in their fields to help us develop policies that are fair, relevant, and responsive to the world we live in. A few recent examples include our policies regarding supplements and medicinal claims, which is fair. I don't want to buy supplements off of Etsy. That sounds scary. Which I'm sure there's some wonderful people. I buy supplements off of Amazon. Maybe I need to rethink my life choices. In addition, we allocate resources to ensure ongoing compliance with evolving laws and regulations. I've just realised here how disjointed I am sounding today. I've got like little thought threads running off everywhere. So, yeah, if you're hating this, absolutely jump off now. My brain's doing brain things. Mitigate bias. We use a distinct set of principles to help root out bias from the policy decision making process, including stakeholder input, creative expression, and clear and objective rules. That is important, but very difficult. But I don't like, I understand why they put including stakeholder input. They're trying to say that we don't enforce our policy based on what the stakeholders are going to think. I also think that's a bit incorrect because everything that ETSI does, they sort of have to track, and they have to track to report it to the stakeholders. So they want to be able to report good things to the stakeholders. So it's impossible not to have some level of bias, but at least they're thinking on it. Contextual consideration. We consider the context in which language or visual elements are used in our marketplace, as these factors can influence their meaning and the impact on our community. For example, if a seller uses potentially offensive language in a self-referential or reclaimed manner, we may treat it differently than if the same language is directed at another user in a disparaging way. Facebook, can you do this? So for those of you that have been about a while, might know that I was actually banned from going live on Facebook for a month or something because of how I talked. Online bullying, apparently, because I called my female dog the B word that you used when you're talking about a female dog. So Itzy just saw I was talking about an entity called Mia, and I was calling her a B word. And also, a lot of my Scottish friends were getting hit on Facebook because we tend to use language that might sound a little bit harsher to different countries. And I think Facebook was writing its rules based on more US interactions, where calling your friends some pretty awful sounding words is actually quite friendly for some people in Scotland. So I know a lot of people in Scotland were getting hit. Yeah, it's similar to like Australia, all sorts of things. It's not necessarily bad, but contextual. Anticipate risks. We strive to proactively anticipate future challenges and monitor emerging trends, ensuring that our policies remain adaptive and forward thinking. And commitment to iteration. We recognise that our work is never perfect or complete and commit ourselves to thoughtful, data driven improvement. That is an important one. And to be fair to ETSI, it does change a lot. It isn't always transparent when it's changing, like I can't even remember the name of it, but they've had certain policies out there, they've had certain things that people absolutely hated, caused massive complaints, and they just removed them without even saying they were going to remove them. These things just disappeared quietly. Sometimes you have to say, hey, we tried a thing, you were right, this wasn't a good thing, it didn't work in the ways we thought, so yeah, we got rid of it. These guidelines enable us to enforce policies consistently, protect our community from harm, and prevent future risks. Staying responsive to shifting contexts. While the structured approach outlined above generally allows for clear decision making, we live in an ever changing and increasingly complex world. Some topics of online content moderation are highly nuanced, lack a clear consensus from third-party experts, and might have different meanings for different people. In these cases, our team looks at industry best practices, emerging guidance, and the possibility for content to cause real-world harm in order to make the most informed decisions with the data available to us. We know we may not always get it right. Yep. And we're committed to monitoring new information and contextual changes so we can stay agile and reevaluate our policies when necessary. I just want to say just now, when they're saying we know we may not always get it right, But there's a lot of people that work at Etsy, and quite a lot of them care and are decent people. So potentially these policies and things, these things have been written by people who really, really mean well. And there are things that are improving and stuff. So although we get mad at Etsy, and hey, I've been mad at Etsy plenty myself, we do, if we're going to stay here, we also have to cut them some slack and look at the good things as well. Not all Pollyanna and say it's all great, but if something's improving, we do have to sort of shout out about that as well, because they listened when we all cried out and said something was terrible. If we all cry out and say something's good, this is a good step forward, we would like more like this, then chances are we will get more like this, especially if it works and it makes more money for them as well. That's the most important factor for them, is long-term making money. How policies are enforced. When you open a shop on Etsy, you commit to following our terms of use and house rules, including our seller policy, which outlines what can be sold on Etsy and our customer service standards. And it is well known that people don't read the small print when buying something, when opening something. So guys, you should actually check out these policies. They are long and boring. We expect every user to follow our policies to ensure that Etsy remains a marketplace where creativity and originality thrive. I want that to be the case. I really want that to be the case. We're actively working to reduce how frequently shoppers see items that violate our policies to ensure they're consistently experiencing the magic of Etsy, one of a kind and handcrafted goods. And that is a number they're looking at, which, right, it sounds good. All companies, what they do is they give themselves targets. They say, we're going to track this thing, look at how often it happens, and see if we can improve it. So Etsy's thing there is they're looking at how frequently shoppers see items that violate our policies. That sounds nice and good and simple, and it is, but what it can mean, I'm not saying it does, what can happen with these kind of targets is what they've done is what they are likely to have done is looked at, what are these most important searches? What are people searching for the most? What are people looking at the most? And how often in these pages are in the pages that they're looking at, because if you search and you buy something within the first page, it doesn't matter if page 2 is entirely policy violating. They didn't get to page 2, so they're not necessarily, they're not sitting counting, but they've done an algorithm, they've done a way to look at this to see, of these kind of things, how often are there violating things. So however they do that, they have a baseline, and then they're going to want to work, they say, whatever that number is, 2% of the time people see violating things. It's probably way higher than that, but 2% of the time. So they want to improve this. Now, this is just I'm giving you hypotheticals here. Some of these will not be how Etsy do things, and definitely won't be, but there's a couple of things you can do to improve that number. If all you are wanting to do is improve that number, a simple thing you can do, you could change the policies so items don't violate the policies. That would improve the number. You could not spot the violating things, because how are they identifying what's violating? Because if they knew it was violating, they would already be taking it down. So if they were doing a manual review of what the pages are showing, they could employ people who are less well trained to do that count, and they might count less violating things. Or if they've got an algorithm, they could make it less sensitive. So you can improve on a number you're tracking without actually improving the outcome. I'm not saying Etsy doing any of this, but I'm just saying that numbers don't necessarily mean things have improved. It's the same, it really annoys me. Etsy quotes one of their numbers, that most companies do, for their customer support of how quickly tickets are closed out. That doesn't mean happy customers. Sometimes I used to love when I could message Etsy and the support staff really took their time to answer my question because it was complex. However, now if you go with a complex question, they're wanting you out of there as quick as they can. I have multiple times now had complex questions not really looked at. They just look at the one or two buzzwords, and even when you get through to the human, they answer what they think the question is without actually bothering to understand the question. And then when you reiterate and say, no, that's not exactly what I was talking about, they close chat. So they've closed it, but they haven't improved. So that's, yeah, so they're working to reduce that frequency. Hope if you're doing something like that, you have to keep everything else consistent. Are they keeping everything else consistent? I hope so. Let me know. Are you seeing things improved? Anyway, wow. Our trust and safety team is dedicated to detecting potential content violations and enforcing our policies when items or member accounts are flagged for violations. This includes actions like listing mass produced items. So I am hoping they do have a system that is looking at other places, but I just watched 2 days ago a video from someone. Their top selling item was taken down because it was seen in Amazon handmade. Now I knew they were looking at Temu and Shein and everything, but they took the listing down because they think it's mass produced because it's found in Amazon handmade in the seller's shop on Amazon, not mass produced. Anyway, or resold items that violate our creativity standards, or attempting to sell items that we don't allow under our prohibited items policy. I know it's difficult, there's always going to be some false things. Our team uses a combination of automated systems and human review by policy specialists to monitor for, identify, and remove policy violating listings and shops. Flags from our community members in using our on site tools, as well as flags from trusted authorities, are also an integral part of our trust and safety process. I think the I think the automated system should have a lot more faster human reviews. Now, I know I talk about YouTube because Etsy follows what Google does, and YouTube was the best place for this. If you were around YouTube a few years ago, you would hear the adpocalypse, where there was a series of unfortunate events which meant advertisers didn't feel that YouTube was a safe place to advertise on. So YouTube had to do a policy of looking into our videos and flagging up if they thought they were unsafe for advertisers. What happened when an ad was considered unsafe for advertisers was that your ad revenue was significantly reduced because most advertisers didn't want to advertise on that. So you made less money from your videos. So people who have built up this as their business and were paying teams and everything were really struggling when their income could go down like 75% when they're still getting fairly good views and everything. And so much was getting flagged as being inappropriate. Over time, that system improved and improved. And now I have not seen that unsuitable for advertisers for a very long time on any of my videos. Once we've been trusted for a wee while, we're allowed to self-state that our ads are safe for advertisers. And if we keep being trustworthy, then we're trusted. But it was much more transparent in that our videos, when you went to your page, you could see a little dollar sign, and if it was green, it's meaning yes, all good, your video's safe for advertisers. And if it wasn't, you could see that flagged up, and you could hit them up for a review on that if you thought they were wrong, and that was taken into account, and now you have the ability to self-report. I'm not seeing we're not seeing why things have been taken down. There should be a flag going, here's a bad thing, and you can get a review, and it also should feed back into the process. And if you've been a trusted shop, then maybe a little faster in the reviewing and getting things up. Perhaps when you're creating a listing, a flag up to say, hang on, we're not going to publish this yet because we think there's a problem. Because that's what we do with videos. If you're spending a long time on a video documentary on YouTube, you would post it privately for a few days beforehand to find out if the system thinks it's safe for advertisers. And then if it comes up that it's not, you can appeal it before you make it live. So that would be good if Etsy would give us something like that. Basically, what people really want is to be able to go to Etsy and say, is this listing okay? Please tell me. And Etsy doesn't tell us. So it would be good if there was a system where you could have a draft listing and Etsy could tell you if there was going to be any issues with it. Like, if you publish that, we're going to take it down. So then you could go, okay, I'll figure out what's wrong with it. You might have just accidentally misspelled something that ended up being a trademark term that's registered with Etsy. I don't know, making stuff up here. We strive to consistently enforce our policies and hold all members accountable to the same standards. Same standards of things that we don't quite understand. Our goal is to strengthen trust in our community and maintain the integrity and authenticity of our platform. And here, with spotlight on intellectual property, Etsy is aware this is a big problem. We're all aware this is a big problem. Look, if you didn't create it, if you're trying to sell something that somebody else created, whether you've made your own version of it or something, you need permission from the person who created it or who owns the intellectual property. That includes using their name in any of your tags, titles, or description. They have the right to how you use their name. That includes, quite a lot of the time, even having their things in your photograph alongside their things. I mean, if you've bought a generic shelf from IKEA, sure, you can display your ornament on the shelf. But there might be other things that you've got to check with, especially if it has a very prominent logo. Anyway, I'm getting off topic again. If intellectual property owners or their authorized agents consider something on Etsy to be infringing on their IP, they may report infringement to us. In accordance with Etsy's policies to request its removal, our policies, which are based on case law, best practices, and the DMCA, require Etsy to remove any specified content we receive a report of. Require Etsy to remove any specified content when we receive a report of infringement that complies. Etsy doesn't pick and choose which items to remove for infringement. If a listing has been reported by an IP owner or their authorized agent, the seller will receive an automated IP infringement notice after the listing has been deactivated. They don't always see the the notices, but yes, this isn't an Etsy thing with the DMCA and whatever else. Etsy has to take the listing down if someone legitimately reports it. To read more, there's a further article, 5 Common Questions about Intellectual Property on Etsy. Looking forward, we're dedicated to staying informed and responsive to the needs of our community, continuously reviewing our policies and processes in support of our mission to keep commerce human. Keep Etsy human, Etsy. Through our shared commitment to keeping the marketplace safe and special, we're able to connect buyers from around the world with your unique items and build confidence, and they'll have an experience that keeps them coming back for years to come. Look, all the words, I understand all the words are good, but yeah, Etsy, keep to your, keep to the words, keep to the improvement that you're talking about making, is what I can say. Right, guys, let me know what you think of that. I went off topic and rambled and all the things quite a lot more than I anticipated. So we'll leave it at that article for today. But if you'd like me to go through the rest of the policies, especially the IP ones, in a future video in this kind of format, I will do that. And then I'll make a roundup video if you want that as well. But let me know. I didn't want to make a 7-hour video. I need my dinner. It's getting late. But let me know if this kind of format was very annoying. I know some people hate it, or it was good, or I rambled too much. Give me all the feedback. And yeah, I will see you next time.